Good morning. Hi, Emma. Good morning, Nico. We've got a few minutes. Oh boy, people, hi, McKenna. You guys will be muted as you come in, but you can just put your, unmute yourself if you want to ask a question. During class, leave yourself muted. Lee, if you'd close the door.
I will.
That'd be great. I'm trying to do one thing before class starts, so I'm gonna be looking over here. But if you have a question, just fire away. Oh, cute dog. Did she get to, or he get to join us?
Yeah, I'm outside today.
Nice. Where are you?
The dog's pretty excited.
Yeah.
I'm at home.
Where's home?
Outside with my dog.
But
Beaverton.
Beaverton. So it's sort of nippy out, but you know, easier than being inside, huh?
Yeah. Less noise outside.
Yeah. I was going to print out some slides, and my printer won't print my printer at home won't print my speaker notes. So I'm going to just make them by hand. Morning, Alex. Good morning, Savannah.
Good morning. Finally, everybody's here. The last 2 times I signed on, everybody was testing.
Oh, right. Yeah, the last 2 class periods. Yeah, we had a hard week of work last week, and not that this week will be easy, but it's 2 classes with applications without much due. So time to get ready to understand the stuff in Module 4. Although I was looking at some of the screencasts for Module 4. A student emailed me that one of them at least loses its sound, so I'll have to remake that. But as of yesterday, nobody had viewed any of them. So I'm like, oh no, I know it's such a weird situation to be living and working from home. And I see a different person just joined us. I'm gonna try to figure out who that is. There have been reports of Zoom bombing, not very many, but more than 0. And so I'm gonna probably ditch people that I mean, if somebody signed in with their parents' computer, that's fine. But if somebody's signing in that's not from the class, I'm just gonna boot them. It's Trey. So I think it was anyway. the name just changed on the suspect video. I figured it was somebody. Good
I'm in a
morning.
class where I have like a name for a game, so I have to change my name on here.
Okay, what game do you play?
It's the American Revolution.
Is it like people all over the world play it with you, or well, American
No, it's
Revolution?
like no, it's for a class. It's a
Oh.
role-playing game. It's like
Oh, cool. That's sort of neat. I'm going to make a couple more notes. I tried to print out my slides, and I couldn't print them with notes on my home computer, so I have to just go back to the old-fashioned way. Hopefully I'll remember in the heat of the moment. Okay. You guys are great about getting here a little bit early, and now we're 1 minute away, or less than 1 minute away. I'll just finish making these notes. I think I'm worrying about a slide we won't even get to today, but just in case. Okay, class has started, and most of you, well, I won't count. Many of you are here, and welcome. The default again is that as you enter, you're muted. If you want to ask a question, make a comment, I think look, there's going to be two ways to do that. One is if you raise your hand, I'll try to be watching the screen carefully enough that I see your raised hand, and I'll call on you. But in the likely event that I miss that, I think it'll work fine in our group to just unmute your mic and shout out a question. That's going to work, I think, fine. I like seeing all your faces, and if we could just, if you're comfortable doing it, have your camera on. It's not required. It just gives us a feeling that we're together, even though we're not. And everything going okay? I mean, everybody doing all right in this weird quarantine? Raise your hand in front of the camera if the routine of being home is getting a little bit old and older and older and older. We see in the newspaper that the question of when it's going to end is starting to be discussed, which I guess is a good thing. There's that's in sight, but it's still weeks away at the best case scenario, and the talk of maybe starting in September virtually, or August virtually, that I think we'll all be sort of nuts by that point. If we're not there already, I hope for a sooner rather than later. We'll see how that goes. I'm going to let me see if I can. Perfect. I'm going to share our screen. I've got my slides on my iPad, and I think last class, which was a week and a half ago, I was having trouble sharing my iPad screen with you guys, but I've figured that out now, and hopefully it'll work like a charm. So here we go. Huh. Interesting. I'm getting a requirement. I was doing this all day the other day with the other class, I think, and it worked fine. And now I'm getting a message: a plugin is required to share via AirPlay. It's like Murphy's Law. Let's see if I can just. Okay, I've got to log in. Hopefully my password isn't being broadcast to everybody. What's funny is that I was, like I said, I was just doing this without needing a plugin. Hopefully I'm not screwing anything up. All right. I think I'm in. All right. Sorry about that delay. Can you see this screen? I've got a Google slide up on why Trump is pushing for higher oil prices. Raise your hand if you can see it. Okay, great. So I wanted to start class here. This is in the news today or yesterday. And it's an interesting time. In oil, there's international cartel. And a cartel is when a group of different firms, or in this case, they're nationalized firms. So the country's government manages the oil extracting firm for a lot of countries in the Middle East and in Latin America and Africa. Anyway, when a group of firms act together to try to behave as a monopolist in cooperation, we'll see, actually one of our exercises today, we'll see that a lot of times that cooperation is unstable. And that and the reason it's unstable is that if I am a single producer and all my other producers are holding output or limiting output to drive up price, well, if I produce a little bit more, I'm going to get a lot. And if it's just me doing it, price will still stay high. So there's this inherent instability in a cartel, and we've been seeing that lately in oil. And just this week, and so oil prices have been plummeting. There was an article I read that predicted that the oil price would actually reach zero because there's so much locked in capacity that they can't shut off, and demand has fallen because of this COVID-19 event. Anyway, the price was just going through the floor. Well, and part of that was this lack of cooperation among these producers. And one of the really interesting features of this event, well, we're studying monopolies, so we get to see how a bunch of different producers might try to get together and act like a monopolist. But what's really different this time, this has happened many, many times over the last 50 years. OPEC started to be a thing back in the 60s, got real strong in the 70s, and then has had periods of strength and weakness ever since. Anyway, the United States has always had the position of using its political influence to try to keep oil prices low. So we've been a consumer of oil, and it's in our interest. We generally have liked it when oil prices get low, right? We'll see monopolists usually are bad for the consumer, but good for the producer. Well, the United States historically has been a big time consumer and a small time producer. Anyway, so until this event, we've seen the US government try to use its influence to get, in particular, our great friend Saudi Arabia. We used to be politically important in Venezuela. Now, obviously, we have no say in Venezuela right now. But the US has always pushed for low oil prices. But what's weird about this one is that President Trump actually intervened to get Saudi Arabia and Russia, who's actually a big producer as well, to stop bickering and to lead the group of producers to cooperate, to limit output and jack up price. And can anybody think of why President Trump might do that? What has changed in the United States that would make a US president think about intervening to prop up oil prices? Can anybody just sort of shout a guess up there? You don't have to be right. Just give it a shot. Don't all jump in at once.
Well, not a lot of people are buying things, so he might want to help the economy a little bit.
Ah, so who said that? I couldn't see you. Is that Gabe?
Gabe, yeah.
So Gabe, let's think about that. So a lot of the economy are consumers of oil. So actually, if you guys are looking for events to study for your extra credit for exam 2, the drop in oil prices would be a real good thing, and it's likely going to last a while. Actually, after this agreement was announced, the world price of oil went up like by a penny. It did. People aren't really buying that this is going to happen, so it's likely that oil prices are going to stay low for a few years. But the U.S. economy is full of a lot of industries that use oil. Agriculture uses oil intensively. Trucking, making automobiles, energy using sectors, they're all over the place. So, but you're on the right track. What has changed in the US? What sectors of the economy, the US economy, would benefit from high oil prices? Gabe, follow that up.
I'm not sure. I can't think of anything right now.
Well, there's only one type of producer that benefits, and if you're an oil producer, you benefit. And the US's situation as a producer has changed dramatically in the last 5 or 10 years since the last, there was actually an event shortly before the Great Recession where prices were pretty low, but they spiked up and have remained somewhat high even through the Great Recession. But with fracking in particular, the U.S. has become a huge producer of oil, and I believe right now we are the world's biggest producer of oil. So always in the past, we were the world's biggest importer of oil. Now we hardly import any oil, and we even export some. So the U.S. still has a lot of sectors that use oil intensively, but we have a lot of sectors. Well, we have one big sector now. It used to be almost non-existent. It used to be very small. Texas, Oklahoma, California had a little bit. There used to be a real small oil producing sector, but it was totally outweighed by these other areas of the economy that were oil consumers. Exxon Mobil, there were certainly oil refining and gasoline. Those were American companies that did well when oil was priced high. So it's more than just producers, it's also refiners and distributors. But those sectors used to be relatively small compared to what they are today. Today, because we have so much fracking going on, that we're actually a huge producer of oil. So those oil producers do well during high price times. The oil consumers do poorly during high price times. And it's still a pretty there's a lot of economic analysts that are wondering, why would President Trump intervene in this way that favors these oil producers but hurts so many other people in the US economy? It's there's a little bit of controversy there, and I don't pretend to know enough about the oil industry to say whether it was a good thing or a bad thing. It was really a strange thing to look at, to see an American intervening to help this cartel behave as a monopolist and drive up prices for American consumers. I tend not to drive very much, and we're all stuck at home, so probably a lot of people are not driving that much. But normally, you know, summer vacation or a lot of people drive to work. I don't, but a lot of people do. You know, low oil prices really help the family budget. But this intervention will make oil prices higher. Interestingly enough, in Oregon, we haven't seen oil prices fall the way other countries, the way other states have seen them fall. We still have gas prices that are in the high $2. You know, it's lower than the middle $3 that they were at. But there are some places in the country where a gallon of gas has fallen below $2. So world price of oils are really low. Is anybody in a state like that? I mean, how would you know, right? You're stuck at home. You can't go out even to the gas station. But
I'm in Texas, and it was $1.36 yesterday.
wow, wow, that's amazing, because I can remember, Drew, back in the 70s with the oil embargo because of the U.S. backing Israel, and you know, and all those wars in the 70s, 60s, and 70s. I can remember when oil first went above $1 a gallon, and it was like late 70s. So now here we are in Texas where it's almost below that. That's fascinating. So we're 2.5 times that right now, which is, you know, in Oregon, or a little more than 2 times that. So
That's crazy.
yeah, it's part of it is we pump your own. Part of it is we have higher gas taxes. Part of it is we have very few refiners here, so there isn't that much competition in the refining and the distribution in Oregon the way there might be in Texas. Of course, you guys are right there at the pump. There's a lot of oil produced right in Texas. All right, so this is our class 19, and I'm counting, as you know from the schedule, I'm counting even the classes that we missed because of COVID-19. Just the extra week and a half of spring break we had, extra week, I guess. No, week and a half, the Tuesday after spring break. I'm counting those classes. So we're at our 19th class, even though it's really our 16th time together. I wanted, again, to remind you, exam 2 was a disaster for a lot of you, although some of you did really well. Really well in this exam was high 70s, low 80s. There were definitely some people in that boat, but for a lot of you, this was just a train wreck. And I, you know, given the weirdness of this unit, I really don't want those grades to stand where they are. So what I've decided to do, and you got the email, was to have an extra credit assignment out there for you. So if you do it, I will apply points to the numerator of exam scores. And I haven't quite figured the formula that I'm going to use, but suffice it to say that it's going to be very, very generous. So if it takes a little bit of time, but not that much time. But check in with me to make sure you have an article that works, and then write it up and turn it in before Friday at midnight, because that's going to help your exam 2 grade quite a bit if you do that. And if you did well on exam 2, I will give you those points, and your exam grade will just be really high. Which, you know, who's going to complain about that? So do make sure to do that. I have I have made grade reports, but I'm going to wait to release them till after those extra credit assignments are in, so that I can hand out better grades than otherwise. Also, I have answer key, and yesterday during office hours, nobody came by, which is fine, but hopefully you were prepping for today's class by watching the screencasts. I put a screencast where I talked through the answer of each question on the exam. So I didn't want to use class time, but I did want you to have access to that. Okay, let's talk about monopoly. Any questions or comments before I move into the class presentation? Okay. Let's think about monopoly a little bit. So the key thing about monopoly is that there's just one firm. So this is the exact opposite case. There's this thing we do in principles of economics where we think about market structures, and we do it in a little bit of a weird way. First, we think through the case where there's the most competition we can imagine. So that's that perfect competition case. There's standardized products. So if there's no quality difference in the products, there's thousands of firms. So there's tons of firms, millions of buyers, tons of buyers. You know, we imagine this case where there's just the fiercest possible competition. Nobody can sustain any extra profits at all. It's just, and it is an imaginary case, because even as we looked around the classroom back when we were in class together, you know, just about everything we see is branded and advertised, it's differentiated, and even while it might be pretty competitive because there's a lot of firms, it still doesn't match the perfectly competitive case that we imagine. So that's where we were in actually all that supply and demand stuff we started with. That's the competitive market case. Then we moved to module 2. Module 3, we really developed the understanding of the firm's production and costs in a way that enabled us to derive the market supply curve and look a little more carefully still at the perfectly competitive model. Now we're just sort of abruptly jumping to the whole other side of the spectrum, and that's monopoly. There's just one firm that sells to the whole market. And we can think of probably more examples of monopoly than we could of perfect competition, but pure monopoly is still pretty rare. There was a famous antitrust case way back in the 50s and 60s with DuPont, and DuPont had just developed Saran wrap, which of course we still have and still use, right? And DuPont was accused of limiting output, raising price, and harming consumers. And it was a little bit complicated. You actually, if you make a better product than anybody else and attain monopoly power, it's not illegal. What's illegal is using your monopoly power in one sector to try to leverage into a monopoly situation in another sector. The laws around monopoly are a little bit complicated. Anyway, I can't remember what DuPont's infraction was, but it was sued for antitrust. And DuPont's defense, and this is really common, Microsoft used the same defense in '97 when it was, actually they lost a decision in '97, Microsoft did, and they were supposed to break up the Windows, the software unit in Microsoft from the operating system software unit in Microsoft. But that case got overturned when George W. Bush won election and Clinton left office. But anyway, DuPont's defense was, hey, yeah, we make Saran wrap. There's nobody else that makes a plastic wrap. That's absolutely true. But when you think of what a consumer does with plastic wrap, there's actually a lot of options. They could wrap their sandwiches in foil, or they could wrap, back then what you did is you wrapped your sandwiches in wax paper. And you know, when we think about the market properly, this is DuPont talking, there's actually quite a bit of competition in the food wrapping sector. And DuPont was right? I mean, there is a lot of competition from other wrappers. And now, of course, we are years later, we see there's many different manufacturers of plastic wrap. But anyway, we think of the imaginary case where there's one firm and they face the entire market. Although as long as the firm faces a downward sloping demand curve, our analysis of monopoly. The analysis of monopoly is the analysis of a firm that faces a downward sloping demand curve. In the monopoly case, because of barriers to entry, a monopolist can sustain higher than normal rate of return over time. So unlike the competitive industry, if some firm figured out a new variety of clothing that consumers really liked, oh, let's rip holes in the knees. Consumers will like clothes that looks like they're all ripped and they can't afford better. I mean, who would have thought? But you know, whoever thought that first, actually the first time I remember that being popular was when I was a high school teacher back in 1984. I remember the kids started showing up in these ripped jeans. I was like, what, your parents can't afford better? This is a wealthy private school, so I knew that wasn't the case. But anyway, here we are again where people are running around ripped jeans. But so the first firm that thinks of something that consumers might like, and they're right, well, they get to earn profits for a little while. But you know, it's a very short time before other firms will say, hey, who knew consumers are liking ripped stuff? We can put rips in our clothing too. And suddenly every clothes maker is making that kind of thing, and there's no profits for anybody, right? That was the competitive model that we studied last unit. Well, for a monopolist, there's some barrier that enables them to keep out entry. Otherwise, it wouldn't be a monopoly. We couldn't talk about monopoly. So, because there wouldn't be a barrier to entry. If there were supernormal profits, there would be entry, and now there would be more than one firm. So that whole first chapter on monopoly, that whole monopoly chapter, talked about barriers to entry. You might own all the bauxite, B-A-U-X-I-T-E. That's the ore that makes that people smelt down to make aluminum. There's just a few really high quality sites where bauxite can be found. Well, if you own all those, well, nobody's going to compete with you for aluminum. Diamonds, there's actually a bunch of places where diamonds are found, but there's a really successful international cartel in diamonds, De Beers. So, and there's few enough sites where diamonds can be extracted that they can keep all the producers on board. Interestingly, a lot of the new economy features some monopoly power. So you think of Amazon has a huge share of internet commerce and hasn't really had to worry much about competitors. Walmart, Target have tried to float online competitors, but they haven't made a whole lot of headway. There's an economy of scale there where there's a lot of things about the new economy that are really expensive to develop, but once you develop them, they're really cheap to operate. And I think internet retail might be one like that. There's also network economies. Facebook is one of the big five modern firms. There's a bunch of other social media platforms. Of course, Netflix was allowed to buy up the real popular platforms, and that's sort of a puzzle to me as well. They were allowed to buy Instagram. They bought WhatsApp, which is that sort of free chat feature on the internet that Facebook was developing their own.
Wait, Netflix bought WhatsApp?
Yeah, I didn't know that either, except for a neighborhood group formed a WhatsApp group to communicate during COVID-19. So I logged in for the first time in years. And just like Instagram, when you log into WhatsApp now, you get a page owned by Facebook or operated by, you get a Facebook logo before you get into WhatsApp.
But Netflix bought them.
Oh, is it Netflix?
No. I thought you said Netflix.
Oh, I meant Facebook.
Okay.
Netflix is another one of these. I'm sorry. I'm talking about Facebook. But the network effect can really prop up a lot of firms in the new economy. If you wanted to start an alternative social media company, and let's say you had a great platform, much better than Netflix, and you launched it, what would make it so hard to be successful?
Brand loyalty already?
There's a lot of Facebook hatred out there, right? And Mark Zuckerberg, let's face it, he's a little bit of a weenie. You know, he's we've seen him testify. He's not a real lovable guy. He's been brought before Congress for various abuses by Facebook on privacy. Actually, he's been pretty loose with users' privacies. But and so I've been on these groups where people say, oh, let's get rid of Facebook. I almost said Netflix again. Let's get rid of Facebook, and we'll start our own social media. Go over here. And I actually signed up for one. I was just, oh, okay, well, let's see what that's about. And you know, there it sits on my phone. And after signing up, I never looked at it. I think I might even have notifications on. There's never been a ping from it. But why is it so hard to compete with somebody like Facebook that's achieved such a big market share?
Maybe because, well, like Facebook is used to log into everything now.
Yeah,
you
but
know,
it's even more fundamental. By the way, I never log in via Facebook, given their data breaches and their looseness with your privacy. My brother's in he's a techie, and he's told me no, don't do it. I've never signed up with anything from Facebook because it's one way to make your data less secure, and there's plenty of those. Our data is very insecure already, so why expose yourself? But what about Facebook that would make it hard to compete without thinking about that?
Well, Facebook works with tons of companies and helps them like publish themselves, like show themselves out to people, market.
That's how
So they-
Facebook makes money, right? They charge for that. But
And so people continue to use Facebook to market themselves. So as long as people keep using it to market themselves, then they'll keep being a business and hard to compete.
okay, but let's think about that a little bit. Facebook is a great place to market because there's a lot of people at Facebook. Do you log into Facebook? I mean, your generation doesn't use Facebook, right?
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
think about my generation that does use Facebook a lot. This is sort of your grandfather's. It's your grandfather's social media, but they're still really successful. Billions of users worldwide. And why people don't go on because they like the ads? Why do people log on?
Because it's trustworthy and they've been using it for a long while.
And what do we use it for?
Communication.
Exactly. It's where everybody is, right? You put your family pictures up there. You want to see what your grammar school classmates, kids look like, whatever. Everybody's on Facebook. That's where you can keep touch with them. And again, I'm talking about my generation. Now your generation would probably be Snapchat, or what would be the equivalent these days?
I still use Facebook. I talk to my family, but
Okay, so and Facebook's big. What is it now? What other social media for your generation?
Instagram, Snapchat,
Instagram is owned by Facebook. too.
Yeah,
Really
exactly.
cool kids
Which it's
are
own-
using carrier pigeons.
Carrier pigeons. That's old tech. I actually prefer Instagram. I almost never look at Facebook anymore. So even elderly people are moving into Instagram territory. But there's private settings in Instagram. I don't use that much, but I know kids do. Anyway, social media, you're there to see what other people are doing, and if there's nobody there, then what would be the point? So starting a new social media platform, if everybody's in the old one because that's where everybody else is, you would have to draw enough people over to the new one before it can be successful, and that's really hard because everybody's where everybody is. That's the whole point. So there's going to be a lot of inertia to the one that became biggest first, and that's called a network externality. So that can be a big barrier. But other than that, barriers to entry can just arise because it's really expensive to develop something in the first place. So you think of software, movies, music. There's a lot of development costs, but then the cost of producing one more is essentially zero. So through patents and copyrights, people have the rights to sell what they've made, and you have to sink a ton of resources in, but making one more unit is really cheap. And those kinds of situations will lead to monopoly. I'm going to come back to that next class. It's actually an interaction between the nature of firm costs and the demand. One thing that I'm going to give a little short shrift to is that, well, we'll see where we get today. Some monopolists have the ability to price discriminate. Does anybody remember from the reading what price discrimination is?
Picking and choosing different prices for different consumers based on their situations.
Yeah, and it's not so much picking and choosing, it's carefully targeting. And why would firms do that? Oh, you're muted.
Oh, make more money.
Yeah, it's why do firms do anything? It helps them make more money. And unlike racial discrimination or discrimination along gender lines or sexual preferences, those are all terrible types of discrimination that are illegal. But price discrimination, even though it has that terrible name, I mean, discrimination sounds evil, but it's actually, price discrimination is, maybe we should think of a more benign word. It's not illegal, and it probably shouldn't be illegal, because oftentimes price discrimination consists of firms figuring out a way to give their poorer customers a way to buy the product at a lower price, and a firm can often do that in a way that doesn't result in getting a lower price from their richer customers. So
Would a good example be if, like an insurance company, if you have good driving records, you get lower cost of insurance?
no, that would not be a good example, because
Oh,
the reason why insurance companies offer different prices to different type of driver is that the nature of the risk of having to pay out a claim is different for different kinds of drivers. So that's actually, that price difference is related to the probability of having to make a claim, not because of the characteristics of the buyer. A better example would be a coupon, right? You see in the Sunday newspaper, if your parents get a paper copy, or you see actually some of those Facebook ads, or click here and get 20% off, right? So oftentimes offering a coupon is a way to offer a discount to a new user, or to a user that maybe can't afford the full price. It's a way to get more business, and your rich people are oftentimes, when you use a coupon, there's some cost to accessing it. You've got to clip it out of the newspaper, remember to bring it with you, or you've got to turn in a receipt with it, or whatever. There's some hassle to using it, and that, if you're rich, it's like, well, I don't, to save $3, I'm not going to go through that hassle, but a poorer person would. So that's a way to give a discount to the person that's willing to jump through the hoop of using the coupon. So a coupon's a good example, but there's all sorts of examples. I'm going to actually have you guys think of some examples toward the end of class. So I'm going to stop there with the examples, knowing that I'm going to have you guys think of examples in groups in a second, in a few minutes. All right, I'm doing too much talking, and time to get you guys working. There's two things that a firm needs to do to be able to price discriminate. One is the firm needs to either be able to tell whether who has a high willingness to pay and who has a low willingness to pay, just by how they behave. You think of a car dealership or an art gallery, or that salesperson is sizing everybody up right in the door. You have to be able to tell, or get people to tell you. So that coupon user, the firm doesn't know who's going to cut the coupon and who's not, but by having a mechanism out there, they get their buyers to reveal themselves who's price sensitive and who's not. But you have to be able to tell who's who. And then the other thing is a firm would have to prevent resale from one buyer to another. If my low price buyers were able to sell to my high price buyers, well, then I'd be cutting my own throat by offering a discount, right? So there has to be something about the product that keeps the customer that bought at a low price from turning around and saying, hey, don't pay $100 from the firm. I'll give you this watch for 75 because I just bought it for 60. You know, you've got to be able to keep that from happening. And there's all sorts of clever ways that firms figure out who's willing to pay more and who's willing to pay less, and then keep people from reselling. So when you look around the economy, there's some really neat cases of price discrimination. Actually, college is a great one. You guys each pay a different price to get to Pacific. And the government makes your parents tell them how much income they earn, which, you know, gives the firm, the college in this case, a lot of information about ability to pay and what price you're going to have to offer to get the student there. It's really one of the more interesting examples of price discrimination is private college tuition. How do we analyze monopoly? The key is that the market, when we analyze the market, the firm and the market are the same. Let me go, I think I've got my screen mirrored, so I'm gonna go to a GoodNotes app and just show you real quick what the analysis of a monopoly is like, and then I'm gonna make you guys start working. Good. So I'm gonna make a, don't look, that's for, that's what I want. All right, so I've got a blank graph here. Pretend this is a chalkboard. The way we analyze monopoly is, first off, we think of a market demand, and it can be anything. Let's, oh, I've got this still on. Let's say I had a patent on a jetpack, right? So you could buy this at the store and strap it on your back and fly anywhere you want it to go. And there aren't any FAA restrictions. So dollars per jetpack. I've got it patented and nobody else can figure it out. So thousands of jetpacks per year. And then there's this market demand curve, this downward sloping. I shouldn't go below 0 there, I'm sorry. So that's our demand curve. So now this is my demand curve, I'm the firm. And it turns out that the firm will face a marginal revenue curve that's below the demand curve. And in fact, it's going to have the same y-intercept, but be twice as steep. And then if the firm has, let's say the firm's marginal cost is just constant. Well, we can be up or so. Let's say the firm's marginal cost is like so. We can just analyze the firm in the same graphical space as the market demand because there's only one firm. And then, so this is this marginal revenue curve that tells us how many dollars I get by selling one more jetpack. I'll come back to the point of why that's always below the demand curve in a second. But if I'm going to get $1,000 for a jetpack and I only have to spend $100 to make it, I'm going to produce that jetpack, right? If I'm going to get $300 but only have to pay $200 to make it, I'm going to produce that jetpack. Where would I stop? Just when I get, say, $250 for a jetpack, and that resulted in exactly a $250 gain, that's where I would stop. So this is going to be the quantity that the monopolist will sell, and the price, I can charge that high price that consumers are willing to pay for QM worth of output, that's what I would charge, right? I would charge as high a price as I could and still sell QM because I'm a monopolist. I want to make money. So that's what our analysis looks like. And, you know, I can even add average total cost mark line in there, average total cost. And just like the firm level and the competitive firm, price minus average total cost gives us the profit per jetpack, and then my total profits would be that shaded area. So the technical analysis of the firm and profits and costs is very similar to what we've seen before. The difference is that there's just one producer, so we can analyze the firm in the same space as the market, and there's some barrier to entry. In this case, a patent. The government has given a patent to me because I was the inventor of this wonderful thing. And to give me the incentive to invent that, the government makes this deal. If you invent a new product that nobody else has thought of and consumers want to buy it, you can earn profits without any worry about competition for 17 years. That's the length of a patent in the United States. 17 years worth of monopoly profits is the prize if you invent something useful. And that's a pretty big prize, right? So the government actually creates this monopoly power to incentivize firms. I guess the one other thing to tell you is why the marginal revenue function, that's supposed to be price, is so far below the demand curve. The reason is that for a firm facing a downward sloping demand, let's say the firm's selling Q0 units and pricing them at P0, and the firm's thinking about selling one more unit, right? In that case, to sell one more unit, the firm's going to have to lower the price because it faces a downward sloping demand curve. So if I want to sell more output, I have to drop price, say Q0 plus 1. I've really exaggerated this. To sell one more unit, I have to drop price, not just for the one extra unit that I'm going to sell, but for everything else I was selling too. So every increase in output has two effects. One is, yes, by increasing output, I get some new revenues. That's that vertical, little, tall, skinny. That's the quantity effect of increasing output. But I've had to discount. There's a discount effect. I've had to lower my price. So all the stuff, all the Q0 units I was selling at P0, I've lost a bit of money on those. So I don't just get the market price when I increase output, I have to reduce the price on stuff I'm already selling. So where that gets us is to a situation where the firm has this downward sloping demand curve. Where's a pointer? This downward sloping demand curve. Sorry, the downward sloping demand curve is the monopoly situation. The marginal revenue curve that's everywhere below it is the firm's marginal revenue. That's explained. I have a screencast on that. It's also in the reading, of course. Let's get you guys working here. All right. And I've done that. Well, I want to think just a little bit about this. There was a famous case in the news. There's actually been a few of them lately where these medical products, the companies that make them have been bought out by a firm that then jacks price exaggerately. And so the EpiPen, over time, we can see from, how do I get a second? It messes up the slide, but we notice that from this graph here, we can see the increase over time in the price of an EpiPen. And by the way, why for an EpiPen is there such a dramatic difference between patient cost share and the EpiPen price? The EpiPen price has been what's in the news, but this graphic was put out by a pharmaceutical industry interest group, and they want to, part of their PR is to say, oh yes, the price of the EpiPen went up, but the price that consumers actually pay, that patients actually pay, has not gone up by nearly so much. Why with the EpiPen how could the price be so high and yet the patient's price be so much lower? What's going on there?
Does that have to do with like what insurance would cover?
It's everybody in the US, we have private healthcare insurance, and most of us get that insurance through work. The people that have to buy it individually have a different situation. But if you get your health insurance through work, your rates that you pay for that insurance, that your company pays for that insurance, don't depend on your usage. So it's not like if you wreck your car and go put a claim in, your car insurance premiums go through the roof. So you might think about fixing your car on your own. Health insurance doesn't work that way. It's if employers are required to give their workers, and health insurance companies are required to charge employers a community rating price. That means the health insurance premium is set by company-wide averages, not any particular employee's usage. So whether you buy an EpiPen or not, the insurance company steps in and pays for 80%, 90%, 100%, depending on the nature of your benefits of the price, and your premiums don't go up in any direct way. The company-wide, the premiums would go up, but that's because of you and all your fellow workers. So if you work in a big organization, the effect of your own use doesn't drive premiums at all. So health markets are really weird, and that there's no accident that it's been EpiPens and several exotic drugs that have seen these price increases. Now I'm blanking on the name of the drug, but the price went from $13 to $700 just like overnight. And anyway, so EpiPen is one of these where the right to produce EpiPen was bought out by this other firm, and they decide, well, we've got some monopoly power here and we can raise the price. We want to make more money, we're going to raise the price. And they did. And the fact that consumers are insensitive because of the way health insurance markets work, that made it all the better. We don't lose that many sales, even as we jack the price we see it went from $100 to $600 in the space of just a few years, and sales didn't drop at all. So actually, I guess I gave away the answer. EpiPen is a generic. It's not protected by a patent anymore. The technology's been around for decades. Why? What's keeping some other firm from entering?
Is it the same philosophy as Facebook, that there's just already users with the original market?
No, when I have a daughter that's allergic to peanuts, and if she goes into anaphylactic shock, I'm not thinking, oh, I better use the same injector that everybody else is using. There's no network effect there.
Do they have, so like the patent on the EpiPen itself ran out, not just epinephrine?
Epinephrine is a generic.
Right.
Because
I know that was the thing, was epinephrine anyone can get that, because like an OP, that's what we use in our first aid kits, is just
Uh-huh.
epinephrine, not the EpiPen, because it's so much more cost effective to get. Is because the company doesn't have their stranglehold or their copyright claims on epinephrine itself, but the mechanism of injection, the pen.
Yeah, so maybe their injectors a little more friendly. My understanding is it's not that there's at least one alternative that's just as easy to use that nobody's ever heard of, right? Except for you guys at OP use it, right? You use the generic equivalent.
Yep, we do,
Yeah.
and we're all trained. We're trained in it.
So you must have to buy your own kits. There's no insurance company paying for you.
Mm-mm.
Right. So this is the mystery solved. One is that even to produce a generic, there's a lot of money that you have to spend to get certified to be a generic. You don't have to spend near as much as a company developing a new drug, but it's still costly. So there is a barrier there. But people know EpiPen. Their insurance is paying. So am I going to pay $20 for EpiPen or $15 for the generic equivalent that I'm not really sure works as well? Maybe it does, maybe it doesn't, but who knows? Am I going to take that risk? No, it's because of the fact that the insurers pay and I don't. Get the EpiPen, what the hell? It's just a few pennies more. And by the way, you never use them. We've never ever, my daughter's been allergic since she's a year and a half, and here we are, she's 16 now. Never once have we had to pop it open and inject her. It's just, you got to have it for an emergency. And you got to replace it every year at her school. They need 2, I think. It's just nutty. It's just a rigged market. You have to pay all this money for something you never use, but it's my insurer that pays it, not me. So EpiPen or brand X pen. Well, it's my daughter's life. It's a few bucks difference. Who cares? So it's really hard to break into this market as a epinephrine injecting device company, because consumers, it's really hard to woo them away. Everybody's covered. Not everybody, but the vast majority of us are covered by insurance. So OP is not. OP has to buy those kits out of their own pocket. So you guys would be the type that would buy the generic alternative, which I understand works just as well.
Mm-hmm. It's just, I think also because it does take a training process to learn how to inject generic epinephrine.
Or the EpiPen too.
Yeah.
It's non-trivial to learn how to do that. Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah. I mean, it's not that hard, right? But
also the needle scares people away.
Oh yeah, absolutely. You hope never to have to jab somebody in their thigh really hard the way you would need to, but better.
And you don't have to stab them. Like, it automatically doesn't counts it for you.
Say that again, McKenna.
New EpiPens, you don't have to stab them. Like, it injects it by a button and it counts it for you, so you don't have to count.
Oh, nice. So and that's what Joseph was saying, is that by improving the injector, you can get a patent on the injector, and then that gives you some market power. Good point. Yeah. So this is happening all across the pharmaceutical industry, and this brings us to a question of what should we do? We've heard President Trump actually has suggested that we might put price ceilings on drugs, and that's what every single country except for the United States has price controls on pharmaceuticals that aren't so low as a competitive price would be. So they allow firms to make some money, but they don't allow the jacking of the prices. And there's an argument for that. So I want you guys to think about that argument in the first application exercise we're going to have you do together. I've been meaning, I had told myself I was going to break you into groups while I was talking, and I didn't break you into groups. So it's going to take me a minute, but I'm going to make up the groups, and then I want you to think about what should be done. And let me, I'm going to have while I'm making the groups, each of you individually read the screen and try to figure out what should be done. There we go. I'm trying to access my group. Oh, there we go. While you guys read this, I'm going to make up our groups. Hopefully that isn't anybody I've already assigned. I know I'm missing some team 2 people there. I'll come back. Sorry to be so slow at this. By the way, remember I was telling you that I was in a demo room, I was in a webinar where the leader made up these groups, and she did it so quickly. I thought, oh, I can do that on the fly, no problem. And I was thinking about it after our last class, and I realized that she just made rooms and randomly assigned people. That's just a click of a button. It's when you are assigning particular people to particular rooms that it gets hard. Noah Mock, what team are you on?
Team 2.
Team 2. Okay, I was just about to click that to assign you to team 2, and then I had a doubt, and team 4. I just see Koichi and Noah. Is there anybody else from team 4 here?
I'm from team 4.
Oh, Savannah, of course. So it might be just 3 of you. All right, team 5. Cody, are you team 5?
Yes.
And Dylan's team 5.
Yep.
Liam, you're team 7, right?
I'm team 5.
Oh, Liam, you are. Okay.
Yeah.
Riley, you're team 5 too, right? Actually, what I'm going to do is put you in the rooms. And if you're not assigned yet, you'll stay with me. But if you've been assigned, your team can start on the choice. I've got the report at our class Moodle page. I've got a Google Doc where you just have to, whoever the reporter is, when the time comes, I'll tell you who the reporter is. I'll spin the wheel. When that time comes, go to our Moodle page, go to the Google Doc link if you're the team's reporter, and then just choose A, B, C, D, or E there, and then we'll have a conversation class-wide. I'm going to open all rooms so teams 1 through 5 can get started.
How do we know if you picked us? Sorry.
You'll pop over there on your own, and if you're still with me, then I'll be assigning you. Oops. How come it? Okay, good. Huh. Brandon, what room are you in? What team are you in?
I'm on team 8.
Oh, you are? Okay. Again, I had it on my finger on that button, but then I started doubting myself. Emma, you're breakout room 6, and Malia, you're 7, right? All right. Everybody should be going to their own room. Now, Joseph, I'm still seeing you. Can you hear me?
Yep, there we go. I can hear you. I'm still here.
What's strange is you guys are listed as already having been assigned, but yet you're still in this room.
Let me refresh real quick. Oh, there we go. I got the pop-up now.
But
I don't know. I'll
why?
take off.
Oh, you know what? Maybe no. Why? Elena, I see. Joseph, I see, and one other person that's unassigned. I don't get that. Huh. Elena, do you see an option to join a group? My group roster shows you in breakout room 8, but I still see you here. I don't understand why that is. Can you, Elena, can you join room 8 from your screen? You see a button to do that?
D is the price ceiling one.
Oh, I thought C was the price ceiling, and then D
Mm-mm.
was the alternate prices.
I don't think so, but I could be wrong.
Can you guys go back out to the general room and then choose to go back to your team by yourself? Is that something you see?
I don't think so.
I don't think so.
Okay. I should then maybe broadcast to everybody to remind everybody which choice is which.
Yeah, or just let us see the page, maybe.
I wonder if I can share it with each of you.
I don't know, but
Let's try it. You guys get anything? Oh. How's that?
now we can see it.
Okay.
Let me go room by room and see if that, I wonder if I share it with.
Oh, you're
the
right,
room,
McKenna.
If I'm gonna, I wonder if I go to another room, if I'll end up cutting them off. There we go.
Can you hear me, Phil?
I can now.
Okay, sorry. I was in the breakout room and I couldn't hear any of my I couldn't hear anyone, so I was trying to leave and see if I can get it figured out again.
Okay.
I'm gonna join the breakout room again.
Do you see a button to do that?
Yeah, it was saying my audio wasn't connecting for some reason, so maybe I just need to reload in.
But you can join it yourself without me?
Yeah, I can join it.
Cool, cool.
Actual economics page. Is it under the module?
You guys making a choice? Do you guys have a choice?
Yes.
You're getting there?
Yeah.
But are you guys there already? Yes? No?
I think so.
Yeah.
Okay. I just want to make sure people are ready. I'll go check on another couple people and then announce the reporter.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I don't know either.
You guys have a choice now?
Yeah, we chose C.
Oh, no, you don't have to tell me. I'm going to announce a reporter and then have that reporter load their report to the Google Doc for that purpose. I just want to make sure groups are ready to do that.
Okay.
We've got 10 seconds before everybody's back with us, according to the.
You said when we were trying to submit our answer, there was supposed to be a graph. Did you want us to draw a graph also with it?
No, the graph is for the next one. Sorry.
Okay, we were really confused because we were like, okay,
Yeah.
because it's all together. Okay, that makes sense.
It's just that first one, and then I'll reset it for the next. Actually, the next one, I don't have to reset it at all. I can. It'll be just the graph for the next one, and then the one after that, which we won't have time for today, would be I'd need to reset.
Okay, that makes sense.
Oh, actually, no. I take it back. The one after that isn't. It isn't. Anyway, it's a different one. We won't get there anyway. So, all right, everybody, back with me. So I'm going to go on my own computer to the Google Docs and see if I can't Good. I've got eight of the teams have responded. So oh, and if you just joined me, if you just joined me, the question Diana asked a good question. I on that Google form I had to upload for a graph, and that's for the next one, not this one. I should have made that clear, and I apologize. Interestingly, of the options, I've got a lot of you liked option C the best. There was one group that liked option D better, or maybe two groups that liked option, one group that liked option D. Let me see if I can't tell which group that was. Which, oh, I see. Let me, there we go. I'm trying to see. I can't see easily which choice was which. Ah, here we are. Now I've got it. Oh, but only team by team. Here we go. Oh, and I've got 10 now. So some team reported twice, which is better than reporting 0 times. I'm going through. I've got just team 6. So reporter 4 for team 6. Could you talk us through why you chose D? And D is allow continued patents, but require steep discounts to low income. So what made sense about that one for you?
Yeah, so we picked that one because we thought individuals with low income or without insurance shouldn't be going into debt or be spending a ton of money if they don't have a bunch of money in order to have like their essential pharmaceuticals. And yeah.
And so that's seems a good reason. I'm going to spin spinny wheel. Can you guys still see my iPad? Oops. Does your screen still show my iPad?
Yes.
I'm gonna go back to spinny wheel, and this time though I'm gonna spin the 9 one, and as long as it doesn't come up with team 6, we'll have somebody explain why C was a better choice. So this looks like lucky student 4 of team 3 gets to talk us through this one. So let's, so again, we're looking at we're looking at option D, which is to allow, option C, to allow continued patenting, but force pharmaceutical companies to set fair prices by imposing a price ceiling set at a level that enables a normal rate of return. And by the way, this is what most countries do, give or take. So team 3 reporter, could you explain your reasoning there?
Our reasoning was that price discrimination can basically benefit everyone.
But this isn't price discrimination, right? This is a price ceiling on drugs, but set at a level that would enable pharmaceuticals to make a normal rate of return, but not to make excessive profits, right? Who's for some reason the student talking isn't being highlighted on my screen. Is that Ezra?
Yeah.
Oh, cool. So Ezra, what about so the price ceiling? What is it about the price ceiling that's attractive?
With the price ceiling, companies can't overcharge, and the consumers can actually sort of kind of get a fair price. They can kind of keep it moderately low.
Yeah, maybe not really low, but lower than it is now,
Yeah.
right? So you think of, are you aware of what Canadian drug prices are. One of the suggestions President Trump made was to allow imports from Canada. But if let's say an EpiPen cost $100 in Canada, but $600 in the US, who wouldn't get it delivered from Canada if you were paying out of pocket? That was attractive to a lot of people. I'm going to ask a team reporter from a team that Spinning Wheel will choose, what might be a negative consequence of the price ceiling? This is the reporter from team 2 now. So what would be a negative consequence of the price ceiling?
Maybe the company won't have like an incentive to make a lot or produce a lot.
Exactly. Good. I expected students to struggle with that, but you're right on it. Is the high profits that are out there because of the patenting system in the United States, we actually subsidize research for the entire world because of the way we allow firms to make so much money in our rich market. Other countries just say, no, we're going to put a price ceiling. But the fact that the US has such a prize out there for a successful drug innovation makes it so profitable to come up with a new drug that firms spend a lot of money looking for that new drug. And to the extent that price ceilings suppress that price in the US market along with everywhere else, it's not hard to imagine a reduction in effort to develop new drugs. And that's the worry. That's the exact worry about changing the patent system. Just to give you an idea, the process of developing a new drug, we're actually seeing it develop with COVID-19 vaccines. Why would it take so long to develop a COVID-19 vaccine? We've got all the labs all over the world working on it. How hard could it be? Well, A, it's pretty hard, but B, the protocol for bringing a drug to market that you're going to allow, millions or even hundreds of millions of people to have injected in them. You have to find a promising chemical substance, test it in the lab. Oftentimes there's animal testing. Then you've got to do human trials, which is a much higher bar. And you've got to do human trials for long enough that you can see if it works, see if it runs into any adverse side effects, submit all your research results to the government, to the FDA, have those peer reviewed. And then if you get approval, then you've got to start producing it, which itself takes a long time. So, and think of what is necessary to get human subjects to participate. It often is you have to pay each subject hundreds of dollars. So to try to bring a new drug to market is often hundreds of millions of dollars, and most new drugs that are developed and tested don't work. So we have this system where there's a few multi-billion-dollar drugs that succeed, and then there's this whole garbage heap full of all these several $100 million wasted efforts because the drugs didn't pan out. So it's really expensive, and that big prize of the US market is a real big incentive to develop. If that prize weren't there, would you spend? It's not that firms would stop testing new drugs. It's instead that they would only pursue the very most promising prospects, and that a lot of those not obviously promising drugs would just not get developed. And maybe the cure for cancer was in that group that didn't get developed. So that's the worry. Now nobody selected just a prize. That a lot of health economists say, we could develop prizes for successful firms, and we could scale the prize based on a measure of how useful the new drug is, based on how it performs relative to the old drug and how many lives saved. And we could come up with a pretty good scale for the size of a prize for a cure for cancer, that was brand new relative to the size of a prize that helps me look more handsome. It's a lost cause, but help me grow hair back, whatever. You know, when we could scale prizes to the improvement of the life, to the quality of a jump in performance over the next best drug. And then it's just a one-time prize and not this ongoing gouging of consumers throughout 17 years' time. How did you guys reject that one? What made you reject that one? Does anybody want to volunteer? Did anybody consider that seriously? That was option B.
Our team actually chose B.
Oh, you did? It didn't show up in my report. Oh, good. So who's your reporter, Malia? Are you the reporter?
Yeah, I can do it.
All right. So tell me why
so
B.
We went back and forth between B and C. Like our team was kind of split at first, but we decided it wasn't C because if you put a price ceiling, there's more demand than there is like supply. So that just like the housing thing we talked about last unit, how that just creates like it's unfair for poor people.
Okay.
Usually.
Let me, hold that thought. I want to come back to that thought, Malia, and that's how we'll close class with I'll come back to your thought, but keep going on the prize.
And then we ended up choosing B because we said that like by disallowing these pharmaceutical patents, more people, like it would end up being a competitive market where they can find an equilibrium and it would be better for both producers and consumers. But by offering a system where they have like a prize, it creates an incentive for people to like produce these products.
Yeah. When I think about this, I personally, I'll disclose my my druthers. I think a system of prizes that were calibrated carefully by according to the improvement of performance and the nature of the drug. You know, curing cancer is a lot more important than fixing baldness, for example. I actually think that would have a lot of the benefits of the patent system without a lot of the downsides of patents. And we could even cooperate with other rich countries to fund the prize, together. And I just see that as a real promising idea. Now, there isn't a right answer here. There's a case that can be made for just about any of these options. So it's an area where economists argue a lot. And I think the prize carries the day. Obviously, in most countries, the price ceiling has carried the day. The drug companies do now of their own accord. I think Joseph mentioned, or no, it was Ezra mentioned price discrimination. I think by accident, but actually, EpiPen has these coupons if you're buying EpiPens on your own that are worth $400. So you get a $100 or a $200 price. So drug companies price discriminate by floating the low price to the poor people already, just because it maximizes profits. Those poor people wouldn't buy it anyway. So that's you don't even have to legislate that, but you could legislate that, and that would be an improvement probably. I want to show you what Malia mentioned. Malia mentioned the effect of a price ceiling, and interestingly enough, the policy argument about price ceilings from the pharmaceutical is exactly what Malia said. It's like, oh no, there's going to be this shortage. We can't do that. It would create all this inefficiency. But it turns out in the monopoly case, the analysis of a price ceiling is very, very different from the competitive case. So actually, apart from the prize effect of developing a new drug and having those billions of dollars of profits that Noah actually did a really nice job expressing that one. Apart from that argument, the price ceiling in the context of a monopoly has a very different effect than in the context of a perfectly competitive firm. And this is a good illustration of why when we analyze policy, when we suggest policy, we need to know what kind of market we're talking about. So just quickly, and I know we're almost out of class time, can you still see my screen on my iPad? Yes? Emma, I've got you right in my view. Raise your hand if you can still see my screen. Okay, Yes, good. Thank you. I only have a few of you in view. All right, so let's suppose this is, EpiPens per year. And we have this, so this is the demand curve. We have this marginal revenue curve. And remember why that marginal revenue curve is downward sloping. It's downward sloping because in order to increase output, I have to offer a discount to sell more goods. So I have to give up these high prices on the previous units. Under a price ceiling, there wouldn't be that problem because the price ceiling means I can't charge a high price for the early units, and so I don't have to lower a price. What a price ceiling does, let's put a marginal cost curve here too. Let's say we had a price ceiling that allowed a normal rate of return. The price ceiling creates a new marginal revenue function. In this case, I've drawn it so that we'd see this price that might even be below the price ceiling, but probably not. But essentially, the price ceiling changes the firm's marginal revenue function in a way that for a monopolist, it's very likely that a price ceiling both reduces the price that consumers pay and, very differently from the competitive price ceiling, increases the quantity sold. So here's a case where if we have a monopoly situation, a price ceiling actually makes a lot of sense as a policy recommendation, at least in the short run. Whereas it's stupid for a competitive case because of that shortage issue. So this is a real important difference, and it is a good illustration of why we need to know, hey, if we have a monopoly situation, our policy options that would make sense would be a very different set of things than if we have a competitive situation. And the first discussion when we're thinking about policy should be, what kind of market do we have? Very competitive, monopolized. That would totally change the nature of the policies that we consider. So in a static sense, just today, a price ceiling would make a lot of sense for a monopoly. The problem, of course, is the one that Noah mentioned, the incentive effect, that we would have products that wouldn't even exist because we would have destroyed the incentive, or at least reduced the incentive to develop those products. And that's the worry. So anytime, we'll leave it at that, and we'll pick up here next class. So have a great couple of days. What I'm going to do next class is wrap up this idea of monopoly, and we're going to start in on game theory on Thursday's class. And then we'll also work with ideas of game theory a week from today. And then we have our third exam a week from Thursday. So that's coming up. Make sure you're working on the problem set. Certainly ask me any questions as you have them by email or by coming to office hours or scheduling another time outside of office hours. Thank you for your attention today. Have a good couple days. Good luck. Bye-bye.
Hey, Phil.
Yep.
On your Moodle page for the extra credit thing
yep.
you have, I don't know if this is, I believe that it has it due for Thursday at midnight.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah.
Is that the announcement that I made? Is that
no, it's actually on the Moodle page, like what due date it's on.
Oh,
yeah, and you said that it was due Friday.
Yeah, I had it first Thursday, then I thought, well, why not give them till Friday midnight?
Oh,
could you point me to where on the Moodle page that is? I'll change it.
Okay. It was. It says it's under like. What was it? Under section 1 midterm teammate evaluation.
Oh, okay. So in module 3.
Yeah, module 3. And is it are you adding the score to the exam 3 score or the exam 2 score?
Exam 2.
Okay,
Did I
it also
say 3?
says exam 3 as well.
Okay, well, yeah, because I'm thinking module 3. All right,
that's
so
fine.
let me go to Zoom. What I'm going to do is share my Moodle screen with you, and then just tell me when I get to it, so you can so that I can know where it is, and you don't have to stick around while I fix it. I just want to make sure that that I can fix it. I've got all these different different screens open. Oh, there it is. It was the first one. And I just looked right past it. All right. Sorry to keep you.
No, no worries.
So this is module 3.
Mm-hmm.
I'm in assignments. And down
Yeah.
extra credit. There it is. There it is.
Yeah, that one.
All right. So I will change that. I can change the
Okay.
I
just wanted to give you. Just wanted to tell you so you know.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate
so it doesn't
that.
give you headache on later on. You get a billion emails about it.
Yeah, and I think I have students turning that in by email. So
okay.
I can just accept those.
Yeah, I bet you
can. But I'll make sure to get that right. So I'll start editing that.
Okay,
right
sounds
now.
good.
Thanks for letting me know, Andrew. I appreciate that. All right, have a good couple days. We'll see ya.
Yep.